All right. Easton, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Ed.
Feel like we're catching up. You've been busy this
Yeah,
past week?
yeah, it's been a busy week, but
Yeah.
it's never too much to stack the deck. It's never too much to stack the deck.
Well, yeah, it's great that this week it's just going to be the two of us. I think we've been
Just the two of us making it we try. It makes
Man,
me think of Austin Powers because
I think of Austin Powers and I think the Men in Black soundtrack, the very first
uh-huh.
one.
Yeah,
That was one of my earliest CDs as a kid, the Men in Black soundtrack.
yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. I'll be real with you. So that song has a connotation with me too, because this is gonna sound depressing, but it's endearing. But when I was a kid, when my parents were going through like uh divorce or whatever, my mom would always play this song, just the two of us, and I'm just like, oh my god.
Is this pre Papa John's Pizza or
Yeah, I got a story about that too. Basically, TLDR, I hate Papa John's pizza, and we'll go into that another time. But yeah, that stuff is, I mean, the pizza's crap tier quality to begin with, but
this is true?
yeah, mamas don't feed your kids pizza even if you win it for a year for free. Don't feed them only pizza, please. Oh man,
Oh man, that story is a oldie but a goodie.
yeah. So, I mean, there's been a lot going on lately, I guess, regarding this TCG stuff. For those that haven't really caught up, here's like what's been kind of cooking in the background, and here's what I've been thinking. So this whole like stacking the deck thing, it's really been a fun podcast. I think it's been a reason for us to connect with a lot of people that sort of left MetaZoo and some of the friends we met along the way. Um, Especially a good excuse for even for me to hang out with Easton and for us to just spend time. I think I've even said that previously. I was like, guys usually need like some sort of medium to or an excuse to hang out. So
Or we become degenerates.
yeah, or we become degenerates. So here's us trying to be a little productive. But
Right.
I guess through the podcast thing, Easton and I, it just kind of made sense. Like, hey, what if we were to be able to offer some kind of marketing services for TCGs, and I think it should expand to even retailers. So this has been a little bit of like an ongoing, growing experiment, but we've launched Giddm Games. It's
Get them.
get them, get them. It's a spirited nod to Texas culture, or
Yes.
whatever I threw up there.
Yeah. It's all
But
Texas.
yeah, yeehaw, I think some of that stuff is it's as corny as it might seem, it kind of works to an extent.
Oh
It's at
yeah.
least something to tie your identity to. But and the idea, I mean, the core idea is like when you do marketing of any kind, you always want to niche down. So that's sort of where I'm coming at this from. It's like let's pick a niche and really try to like champion it. One thing that I know really well is just kind of I'm much more of like a digital marketing generalist, which is good and bad. Like I know a lot, but I'm not like I wouldn't sell myself as a pay-per-click specialist or anything like that. Easton, you're like a little bit more you have a growth marketing background, right?
Hmm.
And for those that don't know, like what is that?
So growth is it's kind of like a newer kind of role that's been fleshed out in the marketing um, ecosystem, is really focusing on whether it be through events, through it's kind of more of experimental and in practice, and it takes a lot of the traditional aspects but also throws in a little bit of the less risk adverse tactics and rolls into like events, social media, and blends it all together to have a comprehensive strategy, which is your growth, which is how you align whatever the product that you're releasing, whatever go to market you have, and you put it in tandem, and that's what growth is, because you're ultimately either trying to drive revenue or drive downloads, users, and it depends on whatever metrics that you're trying to measure.
Man, I'm telling you, like even on the most basic standpoint, that's something that all of these, at least Kickstarter TCGs, could use is having some sort of growth marketing strategy or even conversation. Like what I've realized and what I've noticed, and this seems to be a little bit of the trend. I don't know. You tell me if I'm off base on this, but I think there's always a lot of hype generating up to the Kickstarter. There's like maybe some drops and hints, and a lot of these companies and businesses do a great job of sort of building that a little bit of that hype machine, which is a big part of the. You could say, oh well, they're already doing marketing, but what happens is I feel like we get to the Kickstarter, and then it's a little bit of like a then what, right? So
Yeah.
it gets funded and then there's just like this lull. So like how do you re-engage the folks that were already interested with you? And here's the other thing too. There's a lot of speculators and investors that jump on these Kickstarters, right? And part of making that base happy is you have to start establishing your growth ASAP because again, I don't know how to say this, but you to get those investors or collectors to re-engage, you need to start making sure that you're growing a consumer base that's going to be able to pick up some of those items on the secondary market. At least that's how I perceive it. I don't know.
Mhm.
What do you think?
I think that with TCGs and especially Kickstarter TCGs, they're almost Web3, if you will. And even though that in
Yeah.
their inception they were like Web2. So for those that don't know, Web2 is more like, especially when it comes to .com era, more traditional marketing, email, paid ads, a little bit of social media. Whereas Web3 or Web 2.5 up is more Discord, Telegram, Twitter Spaces, different things like that. Some special like events and different things. But in actuality, a lot of TCGs are Web3, Web 2.5 up, and so you are building a community on your Discord server, on your Telegram, whatever it may be, and then you're figuring out ways to engage them into your sales funnel. So by buying products. Interestingly enough, I don't know if it was by design. I don't think it was by design. With MetaZoos, they did a really good job of re-engaging new people or people who are already in their funnel by constantly having products. So it was good until it wasn't good.
Mm,
Was that we kept buying products. That was in retrospect like good marketing because it was unless they weren't making as much money, and obviously they weren't because they had a surplus of product on the back end. But every time they sold out, it created the need for people to I I need to buy this, I need to purchase this, I need to get this. And also they layered on the fact of like the announcements. Like it almost got to where it was kind of psychotic about you getting a notification, a ping from the MetaZoo Discord, which relays you, oh, the product is dropping now. So that in itself was a marketing campaign that they ran, which was, oh, we have a product launching on Friday. We will let you know on Wednesday. We might layer on a Ask Mike anything, and then Friday we launch it, and then
bam.
Monday machine goes burr.
Yeah. Yeah. It really was interesting the way they ran. I, and I remember commenting on this at one point. I was like, it's almost like it reminds me of like, was it Hype Beast or
Yeah,
whatever?
Supreme, all of them.
Yeah, yeah, just like the way it would do their even the language drops in
Mm-hmm.
regards to TCGs just seemed kind of sort of foreign to me. I was familiar with, you know, um like sneaker drops and things like
Yeah,
that. But when I heard that applied to cards, that was kind of new. Um I don't know if
they
they were the first to do it or not.
probably not. Probably, I mean, granted, I think that we don't have an entire history of it, but I think that they did it with the most notoriety. And although MetaZoo isn't as large as what we may think it is, like we were in its own ecosystem, so we feel like it's larger than what it really is. It did start a lot of really good trends that a lot of games should utilize in their marketing approach, because the fact that it sold out, they the issue was, is normally they said it's sold out at 12. Now, granted, we have all this other information that said, oh, he was gonna, from the vault 25% or whatever it is.
Mhm.
We know now that they never did sell out, but
Yeah.
that in itself was a great marketing idea if they could have actually sold out, or if they would have done more, um maybe like smaller, like the thing with Supreme and some of these other high-end streetwear companies is that the stock of certain products are so small that you feel the urge, like with Supreme, they give you the when it's like a season, they'll give you like a lookbook where you can see all the items that they'll have, and then you're like, I'm eyeballing this product.
Kinda
Oh,
like
I
a
want
roadmap maybe.
exactly, I want this,
Mhm.
I want this puffer jacket, or I want this Supreme hammer, or whatever it might be.
It could have been a water bottle, people
A
go
water,
crazy.
exactly, going crazy over it. Then it launches at it drops at 12, and then people frenzy over it, and then you see on other social media, or even in the server, they're like, dang, it sold out already, I wanted to get that. And then that also propels the secondary market, which is again another marketing strategy, because you want your stuff to be priced at a premium, because then it's like, oh, why, it makes people ask questions and continues the conversation. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't think MetaZoo did any of this by design, but they did have some practically they did have some success, and I would recommend that a lot of games utilize some of this stuff in their marketing strategies just going forward.
Mhm, mhm. Man, so one thing that I thought's been really interesting is, like, I this maybe goes without saying, but I never knew how deep some of the, like, let me pull up some of the examples I've got, but there are so many Kickstarter, and it's not just Kickstarter, but just indie TCGs right now that exist in the ether, and, um, I will give credit, like, I find some of these, they're being served through ads, Instagram. I still think that's the best possible for those that want some free information here. If you're trying to grow your game or get some sort of market impression, I think meta ads are the way to go. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing is, meta's hyper targeted towards, I call us millennial boomers at this point. There are millennials that are older than their 30s, but I still consider myself part of that millennial boomers echelon or whatever, in that it's like you got your 30-year-olds that are like sort of mid-level career folks who probably have kids or whatever, some discretionary income, and they remember the good old times and they want to buy cards. And that's all obvious, but think about, knowing that, think about the kind of platforms those folks use, right? And Facebook, Instagram is, that's just our generation to an extent. And there's TikTok, and that's all well and good, but um, I look at the card shows that my favorite thing are, and if y'all haven't seen them, they're these videos that Kai does when he goes to conventions or whatever, and he's selling his Meta Kai products with Smitty, and Kai's cool and Smitty's cool. It's great to watch them, but I'm watching the people that are going to their booths, the people that are buying from them. And so much of that overlap is like the mom or the dad, and I'm buying cards for my kids, which is like the best justification for buying things that, you maybe otherwise shouldn't. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's up to you to decide. But and I've done that before too. My son's 11 months old, and I go, James needs ice cream, and I'm like, I just bought it for myself.
And so, yeah, he's never tasted this before.
Yeah, yeah. No, he likes cookies and cream.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's just what I've been looking at. Um, in regards to, I guess obviously, like, hey, we're offering marketing services, but I want to explain the dice stuff that we're doing a little bit more too. And Easton, I've kind of told you about it, but I don't know how much of it, like,
We're doing cool
doesn't,
dice.
yeah. I think this first run, it's all like experimental.
Mm-hmm.
I I was looking for manufacturers and stuff like that, and honestly, the stuff's all over the place. But going into this whole dice project, it's led me through this whole rabbit hole. I knew dice were collectible, but I didn't realize like dice were actually like something people pay a lot of money for online.
Oh yeah, Etsy, bro. I went on there and I like was like, oh, you got this kind of dice and this kind of dice, and it's like this made out of this and made out of this, and it's like the dragon's eyes. And
Dude, that's I went on eBay to look up Chessex dice, right? And there's a set of Chessex dice, Borealis Orange, that's listed for $1,200 just for the dice.
Borealis orange, is it like a one at one color or
Just
something?
it's a limited out of print, dice color thing, whatever. And Chessex is considered, my understanding is like they're considered like maybe the gold standard for dice. So I understand that maybe some of their stuff runs a premium, but you're looking at like $400 for some of these sets. It's pretty wild.
Dang, these D&D players are serious.
Yeah, well, no kidding. But there's some cool dice brands out there. There's dice that they make that look like ice cream. So all their marketing and branding, it's like they've got scoops of dice and ice cream cones and stuff like that. They have other that are like lattes. So anyways, what we're doing is really producing limited sets of dice. This first run will be Charizard, just because Pokemon's the most generic thing. But I would like our future sets to align with some of the indie Kickstarters that we're hoping to collaborate with. I think the way that those products might look, it's you get 2 dice and a promo card or whatever the corresponding dice would be, for the brand we would be partnering with. Like Primal uses D10s, which that's so Mikey too, because if you know Mikey or Bagheera, he was on the pod. That boy is always setting his mind, like he's like, no,
Yeah,
we're gonna do it my way.
we're not doing D6s, we're doing
Yeah,
D10s.
yeah, exactly. I didn't ask him the discrete reasoning for that, but I'm like, if you've ever played cards with him, if you've ever built decks with him, and his reasoning's always good. Like he always has good reasons.
Yeah, it's always sound.
I'm not faulting him for that. But I thought that was funny. I was like, yeah, you would have D10s. So, but we would do D10s with them and still come up with those designs. And again, want these to be limited drops. But my main goal, and I mean, Easton, I've already talked to you about this strategy. I don't care if I'm spilling the beans. The whole point of this is to be transparent and just if whatever. But hopefully the dice serve as lead gen for what we would ultimately be our marketing services that we could offer to partner with these companies, right? Like I'd love to bring some folks on and help grow their TCG, see how see what I can do. Even if you want me to place some ads for you, create some ads for you, whatever that might be.
Y'all need some help, and we trying to help you.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I actually like this stuff. I have here's the best thing, and here's what makes me bullish about some of our TCG creators is don't up and just quit your day job to pursue
Please
the hoop dream. Now, depends at what point in your development you're at. Maybe you got to make that move to the full time. That's your own thing. But for me, I want to. I'd love to work in this industry and do more of this stuff, but at the same time, I'm like, hey, listen, I gotta have the baseline, the steady income, and then we can chase our dreams and see how that checks out. But
yeah,
you were kind of talking to me a little bit about this, in an abstract in regards to uh, something that a project your buddy's working on. I think
yeah.
you kind of phrased it right. Do you want to share that? You don't have to call them out
Which
or anything, but like you were talking about, like, taking the risk, right? Taking the leap.
Oh yeah. So basically, oh yeah. So basically, one of my friends was talking about. Well, he's like a technical project manager, and we were discussing about like he has a wife, just had a kid, and he's like, look, they sat down talking about finances and different things like that. And I will work as hard as I can. I can guarantee you that no matter what I do, we'll never go hungry. We'll never be without. The only thing is we just won't be rich. So he has a very stable job, makes good money, all as well. They can do vacation or trip here and there, can travel when they need to, have good savings, all that. But he was saying that, hey, if you want to be rich, I can't provide that unless I take a risk. But you can take a risk while I'm having a little bit more stable and less flexible job, and that'll give you a chance to take this risk. And he was basically saying either you got to go for the moonshot or you crash. But either way is, I guess they were looking at it as a family. Like either they get rich
Mm-hmm.
and it ends up being well, and it end up being far more comfortable and have a lot more flexibility with their time. Because at this point, everybody should know that money is just an equivalent to time. Like you're working so you have money to either pay for conveniences or do things that you want to do. But
Yeah.
on the back end, he was like, well, if it crashes and burns, then we can just you just go back to working your normal job and everything is great too. So it's not a lose-lose. But at the end of the day, you either got to take it to really live, I guess, freely and do the things that you want to do. You have to take a risk. The problem is most of the times when a lot of these creators or anybody in general, they take a risk on something that they're not really qualified. They don't have the people around them to help support. They just got a dream, and they may have made enough money on a Kickstarter to maybe print out a set or two.
Mm-hmm.
I heard from an investor, a really good investor, that said that you should never quit your job. The most ideal thing is if you can work your main job and your side job in tandem, and work that until your side, never quit your main job until your side job makes 4 times as much money as you do in your main job.
4 times, really?
4 times.
If I was to guess, I would have undershot that. I would have said like 3/4 of your main salary, but 4 times, that's important. That's important to think about.
Yeah, because they said basically the like a lot of times when people don't account for when they're working their main jobs is whatever 401k, right, Roth IRA,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of
Retirement
retirement stuff, planning, insurance and healthcare, that kind of stuff. So basically and then also like just with inflation, they said basically you need to make 4 times as much money to in your side hustle to justify giving it up for your main hustle. Not saying, now again, there's people who've been in all walks of life that have done it like
you can
with less.
YOLO it, but
Yeah, you can
sometimes,
YOLO it.
but that it can go any which way, right? You never know.
Yeah. And ideally, if you could work your main job and still be able to scale up, because at that point in time when you're let's say you make what you made in a year at your main job in your side hustle, by that time it's you're not having issues with scaling because of your lack of time. You're needing to get more customers. It's like a game. It's not you needing to make more cards or make more sets. It's you needing more people to justify you buying and printing more cards to sell it to more distributors. So it's not I guess it's the scale isn't. I'm getting confused, but basically it's the scaling isn't the issue, because it's not scaling because you have a lack of time. It's scaling because you don't have enough people. The demand, my apologies, demand. The demand isn't there. And so you need to work to get the demand up to justify you having to spend more time on scaling it.
That's what I'd like to see more with these TCG creators is instead of like bootstrap teams that are doing more than they can handle and they're just spread thin. Because there's like, and again, there's a little bit of like virtue signaling on that too, where it's like, oh, we're all just working and doing our best. But what happens is if it's not your expertise or necessarily what you're good at, and I understand if you want to learn, but sometimes that comes at the expense of the user experience, right? So MetaZoo, right? They were a small team. I don't really believe that they were that big, and a lot of folks, they were wearing hats that they probably shouldn't otherwise have been doing. What happened, I think, is they got they got overwhelmed, right? Orders kept slipping through. Golly, ordering anything through MetaZoo or the website was just like rolling the dice whether you'd get it or not, or the right thing. Um, my point is, I don't think any of them had focus, or a background on, uh, warehouse management or any. I know that was maybe golden, but I don't know if what I'm saying is really making sense. It just you need to specialize if you're thinking about uh like quitting your day job because you don't have enough time to pack boxes. You should just like, as you said, just hire the person to pack the boxes, and you can still, keep your day job. You don't need to be the one to pack the boxes, build the website, fill the orders, run the ad campaign, do the 40 some, work with the printer and manufacturer, design the cards. Because if you do all that, none of it's going to be good.
Yeah. I don't I between my time working in, like, super in startups and stuff like that, and the whole idea of like, oh, you know let's, go full time, and got to commit to it. You this is that's a shit storm waiting to happen, because one, becoming like you're becoming reliant on the demand that you can generate from whatever you're doing. So I'll just say, with what I was in, it was indie TCGs, and that is a fickle industry, because right now, during the Kickstarter revolution, during COVID and post
Mhm.
COVID, um, you know, trading card games are coming out of the out the wazoo. Like, everybody was trying to create something, and so there's a lot of demand. But now money's getting tight. Kickstarters aren't generating the amount of revenue that they were doing, and if they are, they're not. They're like, inflated by an influencer or doing something like that, and so the numbers are far less, so the demand isn't there. And so for me, working full time, it makes sense now, but if you're not bringing in the revenue that you thought you had, then you're wasting money. You're shrinking your runway, all this other stuff. The more I think about it, I think 4 times is good, because it also teaches you patience. I think it teaches you um, you want to definitely put more time into your passion. I think a lot of people are like, I hate my daytime job, I hate what I'm doing for a living,
Mhm.
I want to do something I'm passionate at.
Mhm.
But it teaches you to be patient. It teaches you how to really maximize and stretch yourself in, and squeeze every ounce of efficiency out of yourself before you are ready to make that jump. Because if you're going just because you have you're bringing in some revenue, you don't even learn a lot of the lessons along the way. You don't learn about the budgeting. You don't learn about being scrappy and being nimble with what you have, your bank account, your budget. And so I think 4 times is a good safe number, because if you're doing 4x what you make it work, like, that's comfortable. You're probably having some revenue. You have a good cushion. You can stack some money, and even then, you're probably keeping your overhead kind of low. But once you go out on your own, your overhead gets high. You start
Yeah,
using
yeah,
the money that from that for rent and all other kind of things. So yeah.
yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I still think specialization's the key too. Again,
Mhm.
just going back to, I keep harping on that. I was gonna say I still have it. It's my video production business. I've run that in tandem with my job for like the better part of a decade now, and there's been like boom times, and then there's been like more calm times, I'd maybe say. Um, but that's always the thing that I struggled with early out when I was first running it, especially, you know, I had this contract job with a startup, and I was on for like several years with the startup, so I thought, it's a stable job, whatever. One day the CEO just comes in and is like, yeah, everybody's gone. We'll still like keep you not full-time contract, but whatever, we'll bring you in for some projects here and there. But other than that, bye. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to start my own production business. And I realized the money looked good up front, but then you start getting all these costs that kind of like pick and tick at you, man. And again, it's not to the scale of like MetaZoo or whatever, but and then it was me just doing everything too. And the problem is I've realized that you can only scale so much for that. So whenever I've done future shoots and future things, I don't need to be the camera guy, the cinematographer. I hire a guy for that, right? Somebody to move. Somebody, they call it a grip in the industry. It's somebody who moves lights around, or sandbags or whatever. Hire that out. Hire a gaffer. Hire a sound guy, and I build all of these people into the budget and stuff like that. But before it was just like me doing it all. And again, I'm speaking for video production, but like it was always very much like if you pay for one guy to do it all, that's just the quality of work and sometimes you get some cool like artsy stuff or whatever that some guy can rip out, but it's not consistent.
Yeah. I'm back on the, I guess, specialization versus generalization. I think it's also about where you're at in your career, or even just within the game. So,
Mhm.
or in business, or as far as you creating a TCG. In the beginning, you're like very specialized, or no, in the beginning, you're very generalized. So you do a lot of different things. The quote unquote, the favorite hashtag of any startup or business is, I'm wearing multiple hats. Yes, in the beginning, that's what you're
Yeah.
doing. And a lot of TCGs, they're wearing a lot of different hats there, or uh, even working for indie TCG. You're just trying to get people in. So you might be attractive to the Magic players, the Yu-Gi-Oh players, the Johnnies, the Timmy, everybody and their mama. That's who you're trying to like attract. Then as you mature, you might carve out a niche.
Mhm.
So like you see what it with Flesh and Blood. Flesh and Blood in the beginning was a kind of a counter to Magic. And it's like
Mhm.
anybody who is tired of how Magic or the competitive card games are, and wants somebody honest and true and a really tight gameplay, come to us. Then they veered off, and they were just kind of general in the beginning. Then they got highly specialized in the middle, and where they're at now, which is kind of like the inception and full flesh of what they are, is they're like the competitor, they're like the true competitor TCG. So in my head, in the beginning of your life or career, you're really of a generalist. Then in the middle, you're like a specialist as you move on up. And then towards the end, when you're like senior level, you're a generalist at the end. Like the chief marketing officer, the CEO isn't a specialized position. You kind of know everything. You're pushing the strategy, the brand ideations, the different things like that. Like you're not a specialist by any means. So now some of them have like they specialize or they do certain things particularly well, but they're pretty much a generalist.
Yeah, they've had experiences. You at least have to have the language
Mhm.
to communicate with your teams, um, and that's something that I've realized working at different places that folks don't have a common language. Uh, you'll be talking about, oh, this has too much page depth, and what does that mean? And you know, can we all just talk about the same stuff here?
Yeah.
Did you see my ping in Asana?
Asana. Oh, we were used to using Jira, but you're using Asana now.
Yeah,
Uh,
you.
Basically, we're just telling you all work with us, or at least like get your marketing up to par, because the days are gone of Kickstarters getting free press because it rose like, or it raised like 300,000, 500,000, $1 million. Like that, those numbers aren't coming back anytime soon unless you're like, again, one of these influencer TCGs, or you're just not getting that kind of money. Back in the day, like
Yeah.
I guess it also just with the economy, I could see like Nom Nom did extremely well, but I could see them back in the, if it was Kickstarter era when it was like post COVID, oh, they
Oh,
probably would have brought
at least 500,000.
yeah, at least 500,000. It's just a different day and age. The notoriety that you get from having these crazy numbers is not there. The whales are less and less enticed nowadays. The people are burned by a million Kickstarter rug pulls, and so you have to do something different with your marketing. You can't just have a great game. You can't have great art or great lore.
Yeah.
You
You have to
can't
make
just
an
be
experience.
experience.
That's really what it is. And like, you know, it you almost have to do some things that might upset purists and things like that. I think Lolcow's done some cool stuff with their golden cartridges. I think packaging is important. Anything to just be memorable, right? In a sea of just same. Uh,
Yeah,
I'll
and
say,
once, what were you saying?
I was gonna say, just like things are just hyper competitive right now. That's all. Before it really seemed like you could just dump out a low effort, whatever TCG thing and just expect people to gravitate towards it. And now you have to actually put in some work to make sure that you're a good market fit and things like that.
And understanding your demographic, I mean, you're right. You just can't. It's just not the wild wild west anymore. The money's tighter. The resources are far less. Even with these card games, you have less people contributing time, and that's why I say with indie TCGs, we're very almost Web3 because crypto, like they have DAOs and networks, and they have people who contribute it, like they contribute to, like developers can contribute to the whatever the DAO has voted on or products that they are deciding to create. Where we basically had that in many of the indie TCG games. We had people who were creating TTS modifications and mods and tables. We had people creating databases, apps, all this other stuff. You're having less and less of that now because of the history that is coming, like, just getting rug pull or people being salty or different things like that. So you're going to in order to attract those people, because if we call a spade, the community helped thrust MetaZoo into more of the
Oh,
limelight, because
yeah, it was
when
built on the backs of free labor.
free labor, and that's the same kind of concept. That's the only thing that's going to move one of these indie TCGs into a striking distance of, I'll say, a big 3, 4, or 5, because at this point we can add One Piece and Lorcana into the
Sure.
big 3. So I'll
Yeah.
just say you got to do different things now, and marketing is going to be really important. You're done. The days of people just coming in because of a high Kickstarter valuation is out the window.
Yeah. It's really, you've talked about it a million times. I just think about delivering an experience. That's one thing. Again, golly, I had my issues with metas, and I just feel like a broken record with MetaZoo. But they're just, when we're talking about indie TCGs and stuff, they're just such a good case study.
Very much so.
And the experiential part, they did get down. And the thing is, experiential could swing two ways. It could be negative or positive.
Positive,
But I'll tell you what, there was definitely some positives. There's definitely some negatives, but I'll tell you all the things were memorable. I'll give
for
you that.
sure.
Like the
Oh yeah,
Roswell, I mean that funky, who
that
the
barbecue.
barbecue, that was
Oh,
cursed, but
oh yeah.
it was memorable. Like I don't know how to explain it. Even the bad times, there was like the just like, okay, well, we're going through this together as the community. And I'm not saying you do that. That's not how you really want to optimize. But I'd give them credit for maybe like the way they did the Caster Cup setups with, what were they called? Just like the Terra environments. Those were at least memorable. Things like that. Um, the NFT stuff was really contentious as well, but and that could have been handled better, I think. But even that was at least innovative. Trying something different. And I don't know, for better or worse, a lot of it was mishandled, mismanaged. But I think some of it is, you do have to do some of those innovations. And I'm not saying do NFTs. I don't think NFTs are really it, but um, or maybe it is. I don't know. Your mileage may vary. Depends on your project, but I definitely think you have to think outside the box, come up with some creative ideas. What makes you different than the rest of the market?
Yeah, and the I guess for me, I just think that they had a really good time. They had a really or they had a really good opportunity outside of just how they handle things on a personal level. They did some good things from the marketing perspective. And I just again I want to reiterate, even if you don't work with us or work with any marketers, you're doing yourself a huge disservice because the I think Ed and I both did did we both get hit with the Facebook ad that or the
MetaZoo.
yeah, the MetaZoo Facebook ad, and that's what got us into looking at it because
Oh
it looked
yeah,
kind of cool.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that I mean, it works. It works. That picture of the was it the Mothman with the Elder Caster medal or the
The
it was
Archcaster one you're talking
yeah
about?
yeah with that Mothman.
The one I remember seeing was literally the ads CTA was to go to their Kickstarter, and it was the Kickstarter graphic that they were running or whatever. So, and again, it worked because it was riffing off of Pokemon hype. Like, if you want to go into the neural marketing of it all, there was so much FOMO that was frothing around at the time as it relates to vintage Pokemon, right? Everybody was in their their grandma's attics, Pokemon collection type stuff. And people looked at the prices for a lot of these things, the Pokemon, vintage Pokemon, and they remembered how nostalgic it was. And they're like, oh, I can't wait to buy or get back, some of those things. Couldn't afford it. And
Dude.
through their targeting, I'm certain I was flagged for a, you know, somebody who could be sold MetaZoo to, who was interested in Pokemon and Ken Sugimori and things like that. So yeah, that I mean, and there's some crazy stuff you can do with demographics data and segmentation and targeting to find people that would be uh, qualified to be sold to specifically for whatever it is you're pushing. I don't want to get too like in depth with how all that stuff works, but
Maybe another podcast where we talk about like
I don't
why
even
or
know if people are interested in hearing it. That's the thing.
yeah,
But it does matter. I'm telling you, like even I give Primal some credit. Listen, what they've done, I get hit with their ads. Their ads
me too.
are good. They work. Now here's the thing with that. Just because you run ads doesn't mean you're going to blow up like MetaZoo. Let me put that into perspective
Yeah,
as well. I think MetaZoo was
Black Swan.
lightning in a bottle. Like literally, they printed it on a card. Okay, it's called lightning in a bottle. That's what meant. Like
Mhm.
I always love that card because that's what represented the whole thing. But anyways, um, I just think there's some even basic strategies like that that could really get you in front of folks, and then, um, you know, going down the whole experiential route. And sometimes the experience is a tournament. You know what I mean? It just depends on what it is that you're trying to do.
I mean, how I see it's like I just want these indie TCGs to like do, put their best foot forward. And so if you're not even giving yourself a chance, if you're just like staying in your Discord server, staying in the in
Right.
yeah, you're not even giving yourself a chance. Like you're are like as an indie TCG, you're it's like I'm playing Fallout again. It's like you don't you get out the vault and you got no armor, no
Yeah.
weapons. You're going against radiation and all these other different like super mutants, and you're like, I don't need that power armor. I'm gonna just keep walking, and maybe something will happen. And then you're just like, you get hit with you run into like a patch of super mutants with a missile launcher, and you're just like, okay, I can't do anything. You're like, you're never gonna give yourself a chance. You're never gonna even like feel the sense of like I'm starting to make some momentum. And it's cool when you launch your first set and you're like, I'm doing great. And I got a cool like advisory board, or I have a cool, cosign from these industry people or something like that. But you're missing out on sharing that story and sharing your branding with people and getting them to like come in. Because the best marketing is word of mouth. Like that
Mhm.
that
Oh, yeah.
the if you can get one of your fans to resonate, for your brand to resonate with a person enough for them to like advocate on their own to about you, what you're doing, that's all you need to do. But you don't even get that opportunity if you're not even marketing towards them. It's just going to be your community people being like, oh, have you tried this game? This game is the best thing ever. It's like this game but a little bit different, and like everybody's doing the same stuff. You just got to give yourself a chance.
Mhm. I mean, and then really think about, like, the user experience, and I know that sounds like a weird, like, marketing thing, just it feels esoteric saying that, but, um, you go to the what does your website look like? What is it like the front door to the internet look like? Um, is it a professional feeling experience? Like, y that was one thing that always got me with MetaZoo is you go to the website, it just feels like a rug pull. It was just some jank. It's like, I don't know, 1990s GeoCity. Um, am I really gonna give this place my credit card information? And I don't know. It's one of those things your audience feels it, but they don't know it. And you just want that experience to be seamless, clean, most importantly, trustworthy. Like that's the biggest thing I think a lot of the TCG audience is going through right now is just trust. You know, uh, it's crazy to think that out of all these card games that have churned, nobody's really been able to give it a real good shot, except for Flesh and Blood, I guess. Like to treat it like a real company, instead of just some weird hype hype rug pull. And the thing is, you won't know that until you're at least 3 years in, and a lot of these games aren't 3 years in.
Yeah, and it isn't. I mean, I at this point, like MetaZoo broke all the like big curses that you would that come with starting your own TCG. Like the was it 2 sets or 3 sets? Like
Three sets, that's it.
yeah, everybody's like 3 sets, and MetaZoo passed it, and so it's no. There's
Doesn't
always
matter.
outliers. You can have like I mean, you can have like some flashes in the pan, but you just got to give yourself a chance.
Yeah, yeah. Try things, even
And
if it
don't
is
be afraid to mess it
marketing.
up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's the thing. What's hardest about selling marketing in general is it just feels. It also in an industry full of scams, marketing's got is chock full of it. And you don't have to do anything with Easton or I. All I ask is if you do go down that route, just make sure you're vetting. Make sure you're working with people that understand your industry, your business, who you are, and what you're trying to do. Because, and it's not really any industry. If you're getting your car work done, okay, make sure you're vetting those folks too. But everybody's always trying to turn a dime and sell you on the hoop dream or whatever that might be. But do the research.
Yeah, even yeah, it's one of those things that again you can find people who you need people who have industry experience or at least are passionate, because with passion there comes a point of like learning about it, but a lot of people don't. They're just saying like, oh, I can you're trying to fit a square, what is it, a square peg in a circle. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. You have to
Yeah.
find somebody who's passionate and is willing to learn, because passion kind of breeds that, or somebody with tons of industry experience. Stop going for people. This will be my first and last time saying it. Just because somebody is a millionaire or billionaire in another industry doesn't mean that they can come into this industry and replicate the same thing. And I've seen it with my own eyes. They'll come in and tell you that they can do this, that, and the third, and then when it comes to time to count the chickens at the end of the night, nothing's ever hatched.
How many? Okay.
What happened? I'm telling you now, and this is just something you can take in life, but this is also something in trading card games, that it's like the person who comes in and it's like, oh yeah, I did this and I did this and I have this card, and yeah, everybody's has been to the trading card shop, and they like the new person comes in and they kind of like they might have all the cool cards, and you might be a player, and you're like, they're coming in for a tournament. They have all the cool cards, but they're terrible. And not saying that you have to have be good, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, you've known
Yeah,
that
yeah,
person
yeah.
who comes in and leads with their cards. That's the same thing as a person in the TCG industry who leads with their money or their success in other verticals and comes to the TCG thing. And it's enticing at first because you're like, dang, this person has. Back in the day in Yu-Gi-Oh, this person got a Don Salute, bro. He got a Don
The
Salute,
dome.
Chaos Emperor Dragon, Blackluster Soldier, and a Blowback Dragon. Dang, bro. And
Dude.
then got all those cards and got beat with a water deck.
Oh, we love to see it.
And so you gotta pick those people out because they're not good. They're kind of fluff, and they're not really there. They'll probably be on. Their parents are rich. That's what it is. Their parents are rich. They got all the cool cards, but they don't have the effort or the energy to really get into it.
Yeah. And hey, listen, that might be all well and good if you want to rock up with that, but again, at the end of the day, you gotta you gotta do what's right for you, right? So I don't know. That's how I am even when it comes to playing cards. I'm like, all right, you can play that most, you could do what everybody else is doing. And that's the Johnny archetype. So yeah, think about your profiles when you're making your game, you creating your game, selling your game, whatever. Do you want to be the innovator? You want to be the Timmy, you just make the thing you like and go full send, or you can go the spike route and you can just do exactly what everybody else is doing and then kind of hope for, you know, hope that your business is just run better and you top. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think the opportunity for like Spikes to do well because Medizu laid out the
Exactly. If you just, I was just saying that earlier. I was like, okay, we need one indie to just step up and just show that they can just flat out just run it as a business, right?
just do Medizu's playbook, but with
Yeah.
good business practices, and I
Yeah.
guarantee
Yeah.
you'll have some success because they did stuff right in a way. Even though I know for sure that it wasn't designed that way, but
No, it was no.
no, and you can even tell with the pre-order stuff, like uh I mean, you could do a hybrid, a little of the pre-order, a little of the shock drop,
Yeah.
but if you run Metazu's playbook, run it point for point, just better business practices, more transparency, not shady business practices or anything like that, I bet you would have a really good opportunity to blow up if you give enough time. Now, people are still, you know, feeling a little bit
Recovering.
down, recovering,
Yeah.
but there is a chance.
And that's all of this stuff ebbs and flows, it resurges. I mean, when you hit a pump like we felt in 2020, 2021 or whatever, it's like we're coming down off that high. The thing is things are stable now. It's time to like regroup, uh put our heads together, start coming up with new strategies and ways to really figure out how to do things right, you know.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, again, and let me put on my tinfoil hat because I don't think that I think that we're not going to have a very soft landing going into the fall because again it's election time, everybody. So I know this isn't a political podcast and we're not going to get too political,
Mm.
but you understand now that the the people that are in power now, that are in office now, they can't let the economy like crash on us. Like, let's just be honest, like
Uh-uh.
it can't go bad on their watch. So
Things need to look as positive as possible right now.
right now. So it's an even playing field for the election and so on and so forth. And so what I think it'll be bad after the election because then it's like, hey, win, lose, or draw. I'm back. Whoever's in here for 4 years, by the time things recover, they'll spin it and be like, look, growth after it's been 2 years of growth or whatever. I just think that it's gonna get a little bit worse before it gets better. And I want everybody to be safe. So hopefully you're stacking your chickens you're taking care of yourself. I also want all the indie TCGs to survive and do well. So be smart, be tactical, but most importantly, do something different, because I see too many of them staying in their Discord servers, not doing anything outside of the box. Like I said, there's only like 2 or 3 that are really like venturing out and doing different tactics, like Primal, Lolcal. I mean, I haven't seen too much from Sorcery, but I want all the indie TCGs to do well, because I know most of the creators. I respect them and all the hardworking effort that they're putting in. And so the missing component, I really think, is the marketing piece, because nobody's really learning about what your brand or your identity outside of your Discord server, and that's an injustice for you.
See. Well, I think everybody's heard us talk enough about marketing for now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was helpful or interesting to our audience. I'd be interested to see what people think about this conversation. It's definitely something. It's like at the crossroads of things that I know and like.
Yeah.
Between marketing and the TCGs, and this is stuff that you and I talk about off camera quite a bit. So
yeah.
I was.
I mean, maybe we could. I mean, maybe the only thing that would make this a little bit better is we fielded questions, because I know that maybe the listeners, it's cool that we like bring people that we've been around, or like, or who are creating companies and doing stuff. But I know that some people are interested in like what kind of marketing strategies are they doing, because we were discussing that, I think, in the Salt Caverns with Argos, and I was like, well, MetaZoo's marketing strategies has been like, no, everybody wanted, and maybe, I know we are getting closer to time, but a case in point on that is like Caster Cup. A lot of people were, criticizing the amount of money that was given for the Caster Cup. Yes, it was a lot of money, maybe larger than the pool of people, but it's also, starting a business, you're going to have some loss. That's like sunk cost, for product, for events, for different things like that. They could have had 3, 5, 20,000, 20Ks, whatever they want to be. They're still giving them the money away. Regardless, the issue with Cash Cup is they never capitalized or marketed anything post the event.
No. Yeah, and it was all on the Discord, dude.
It was all on the Discord.
You just don't get me started. Like, they had no comms flow, or comms mapping, or communications plan, or anything. You could just tell their email marketing was just like non-existent. Their website, non-existent. They did some stuff on social, but I don't know how much social even did for Caster Cup riding up towards it. But
not much.
Yeah.
You had, and also the thing is, so it was a stark difference between, like, also, not, I always said this whenever we were like having our debates, is that you had a very compelling storyline that you could have ran with for at least a couple of months. You had a black kid and Asian kid get first and second.
Put you on the Wheaties box, man.
You could have ran with that, and I'm not just saying just because of me. It could have been Hispanic and a white guy. It doesn't matter. You just roll with the storylines and the stuff like that. You could have made MetaZoo seem very inclusive in a time where inclusivity is
it's a marketable point.
That's a marketable point. But what MetaZoo didn't strike on that. They didn't say anything after the fact. And these are missed marketing opportunities that cost them money. And instead of focusing on that, it's like, oh, well, the prizes were too much. No, you have to have, you're going to lose money going into business. That's why whenever you start an LLC or a business, like with the government, they give you around 3 to 4 years to, you typically like lose money. Like, you can show that you have no profit for like three years, and they won't really like,
they won't bother you too
much. But after like the 3rd or 4th year, they're going to be like, oh, this is just a hobby. What's going on? And then they get into your business.
Yeah. No, for y'all, again, when I think about content, God, content's such a dirty word for me.
Dirty.
Yeah. It's just a fancy word for stuff. Yeah, we could have made a bunch of stuff, but yeah, speaking of stuff, I think that like sharing y'all's story, like what y'all did, like with the prize money, like going. I don't. You did something for your family, right? Or I don't
Yeah,
know.
about a cow. I helped my parents.
Yeah,
A lot of different things they could
Kai
have
was able to start his business, like
business.
so, like that's a whole thing. Like we our company by playing our game, we help make your dreams come true. Essentially, it's like a Disney wish
That could have, yeah, that could
thing
have been
or
a
whatever. I don't know. Uh, that I don't know. Magic is real. You know what I mean? You
magic
could
is
have run
real.
with that. Uh,
Speaking of Magic, when their first Mythic Championship they had, I think Autumn, she's part of the LGBTQ community. She
mhm.
won their first ever Mythic Championship, and you could not get. She was on every Channel Fireball, TCG Player,
Yeah.
video on you and you see now also it allowed them to open themselves up to an entirely new demographic that has been kind of disenfranchised, but that's ultimately revenue into their pocket. You see them coming out with cards and different things like that. That's more appealing to a broader community. More revenue makes them seem
Mhm.
more appealing and more, I guess, acceptable of and encompassing of everybody. These are things that we as TCG players don't really think about, but as a marketer, you're thinking about like this helps the longevity of the game
Oh,
because
as as a marketer, the term inclusivity. So people need to back off the whole like political ideations of that and understand like from a marketer standpoint, inclusivity when it means everyone. Who doesn't want to sell to everyone?
that's what you
You
want.
know what I mean? Like you want as many people as possible to be interested in whatever it is you're selling. So come off the whatever thing you might have. And I'm not saying anybody has an issue with inclusivity, but whatever. My point is to start thinking about everyone, thinking about your audience, thinking about how you can grow it outside of your Discord. You know what I mean? You can't. There's only so many people that can feed in that small little pool. You know?
Yeah, and inclusivity means not only just your players, like because again, as players, we'll be like, oh, well, what about us, or the whales, or the collectors, or the partners, or anything like that. It means literally everybody, and everybody. There's partners and whales that might be a part of this community. There
Mm.
might be players that are part of this community, and if you can be inclusive of all that, you just increased your market, your really the opportunity of market share because places where they're not as inclusive and they're not getting those people, regardless of if it's like what you identify as or whatever it may be, they're losing out on money. They're losing out on notoriety. And if you're an indie TCG, you need that. So I would try to be as inclusive of everybody. And this, like I said, this isn't like political or anything like that. I'm just saying, literally, you want anybody and everybody because it don't matter. Money is green. It's not black, white, blue, brown. The money is green, and
Yeah,
you don't need that to survive.
that's facts. That's facts. Well, I think we've given a lot for folks to chew on. Hopefully, again, I go back to this. Hopefully, this is of value. I do this not because I just enjoy hearing myself talk. I enjoy talking to Easton. I, you know,
Likewise.
yeah, yeah. But aside from that, you know, really, I just want to offer what we do at Giddm as just a resource for people who are developing games. So hearing from other creators, hearing from players, collectors, really anybody that you might be um, selling to, we want to be a resource for that at the very least. If you choose to work with us, great. Um, again, I'm going to come off the salesy thing. I just think that, at the end of the day, is my goal is just to provide value to the people that, I work with, talk to, hang out with, uh, make sure that everybody's time is valued.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Only onward and upward.
That's right. That's right. Well, thanks everyone for stacking the deck with us.
Yeah.
Uh, and we'll see y'all next week.
Peace.
See ya.